throughout the presentation. So if you look on the right-hand side of your screen in your control panel, you'll see a questions box that you can click on and type in your questions at any time during the presentation. Your questions will be answered at the end of the presentation during the questions and answer session. Now I would like to introduce to your speaker, Brittany Clark. Brittany is the product manager for EROAD, and EROAD is a member in good standing here at the California Trucking Association, and it's also a CTA Executive Circle Club partner. Brittany is also responsible for leading the development of EROAD's suite of tax solutions for its U.S. operations. She brings over 7 years of experience in the tax and revenue industry to this role and works directly with the development team on a daily basis to ensure a highly accurate and intuitive solution is being delivered to customers. Brittany, please go ahead and proceed with your presentation when you're ready.
Good morning and Happy New Year. Thank you for joining us this morning to talk about how to better navigate the IFTA process. I'm Brittany Clark, U.S. Tax Product Manager here at EROAD. As Lupita mentioned, I have over 7 years of experience working directly with the regulatory sector, specializing in implementing audit work paper software, including those for IFTA and IRP for multiple jurisdictions, as well as experience with modernized e-filing. Today, I'd like to begin by walking you through the IFTA process from start to finish, provide some benefits and best practices of going electronic, walk you through an example of how you can streamline that lengthy process, and finally I will wrap up with any questions and comments you might have. If you break down the IFTA process from start to finish, you can really think of it as 3 separate components: record keeping, reconciliation, and filing. For record keeping, your drivers drive and the miles are recorded on paper-based trip sheets or through other means available, while the fuel fill-ups are recorded and captured through receipts and invoices. For reconciliation, you have a stack of daily and weekly trip sheets from your drivers, and those need to be consolidated and reconciled with fuel receipts. There's a lot of time and manpower spent to create a monthly report and summary. Last, for filing, you would combine those 3 monthly fleet summaries for miles and fuel into 1 quarterly summary and then calculate your average fleet MPG per fuel type and break down the mile and fuel information per jurisdiction. Next, you would have some sort of verification process to ensure that your records are good. Next, you would then file and pay your return, either manually on paper or through an electronic method available. You then restore your records and the filed return, as well as the supporting information for at least 4 years to meet your record retention requirements. As you can see, there's lots to it and it's all intertwined. It's paper-based and data-heavy. You have to record the data and translate the data into meaningful summaries, which can be exhausting, worrisome, time-consuming, and sometimes inefficient. Let's now take a look at the importance of IFTA record keeping, since it is, after all, the root of everything else that comes after in the IFTA process, from creating your summaries and reports, performing reconciliation, and determining your tax obligation every quarter for filing purposes. Did you know that jurisdictions are required to audit 3% of their carriers each year? This 3% must include at least 15% of their low-distance accounts and 25% of their high-distance accounts. For California, this means over 650 audits are conducted per year. The 2015 IFTA annual report that's available on the IFTA Clearinghouse's website reports that 82% of the carriers who underwent an IFTA audit in 2015 had an audit assessment of some kind. This could be in the result of additional tax, penalty, and/or interest due to your base jurisdiction. Some of the audit assessments that can be made include inadequate records, record retention, where you fail to meet your 4-year record requirement, and for disallowing of tax-paid fuel purchases. This could be for missing fuel receipts or incomplete fuel transactions. In California last year, over 500 audits ended with an assessment of some kind. Let's look at the inadequate records audit assessment a bit closer, since the others also relate to good record keeping. If a carrier's records are impaired or missing, your base jurisdiction can make an adjustment based on various external factors. Some of these external factors include looking at industry averages, third-party records such as those from a fuel provider, other organizations with similar operations, and even looking at other vehicles within your fleet. In the event that the mileage and fuel information cannot be substantiated, then the base jurisdiction has the ability to adjust the fleet's MPG to 4.0 or reduce the reported MPG by 20%. Let's walk through an example. Let's take, for example, a California-based carrier where the California diesel tax rate is 40 cents per gallon. That carrier operates 250,000 miles per quarter in their base jurisdiction alone. They've reported an MPG for last quarter of 7.0. If they had a 20% reduction of their MPG, this would reduce the MPG to 5.6. They would owe over an additional $3,500 in tax to California alone. On the other hand, if a 4.0 MPG was applied, they would owe over $10,700 to California. You definitely want to make sure you're part of that 18% who ends in an audit without an assessment. Were you aware that the IFTA Procedures Manual was recently updated on January 1st, 2017, including changes to the record-keeping requirements? Not only do carriers rely on their drivers for adequate records, but they also must stay up to date on any changes to these requirements in addition to their normal day-to-day job. Changes were made to enhance uniformity in the conduct of audits, which also better aligns with the updated IRP plan from last year for consistency. This also took into consideration technology advances since the last update. A big key change included the removal of a section that was dedicated for electronic systems. Instead, the IFTA Procedures Manual now includes a subsection specifically for those carriers using a telematics provider for distance records. And here you can see the fuel record requirements with specific subsections for tax-paid fuel purchases, bulk fuel withdrawals, and management of your bulk tank storage facilities. And of course, your needed summaries in the event of an audit. With the ELD mandate on the horizon, you may want to consider how the technology you adopt will satisfy the ELD as well as achieve electronic record keeping for all aspects of compliance, including tax. Don't be a part of the statistic. Going electronic can be painless and filled with many advantages and savings for carriers. Now that we've looked at the IFTA process and the importance of record keeping, let's pull everything together so that you can set yourself up for success when considering your electronic telematics partner by taking a look at some of the benefits and best practices for electronic tax management. 1. You definitely want to look for a single platform encapsulating the entire tax process where no outside software or tools are needed. This means no more third-party filing provider for every quarter. It also removes the need for multiple spreadsheets to determine your average fleet's MPGs, summaries, and calculates the taxes owed. It also means no more rerouting of trips through a mapping provider to verify trip sheets. You also want to ensure that the telematics provider you choose uses accurate and reliable data, where they measure and record mileage information automatically. This allows you to gain confidence in the tax reports filed each quarter and puts an end to unreliable and inconsistent data, avoids accidental manual and math errors, including transposition, prevents gap miles between your vehicles each month, and you can forget about having incomplete or missing trip records. Next, you want to make sure that it stores and transmits data securely, as well as meeting your record-keeping requirements. This helps safeguards against audit assessments. Let your telematics provider do the research so that you can do what you do best, run your business. Remove the burden from your drivers and their need to rely on them for accurate and detailed records. You also want to ensure that you can distinguish between on and off-road miles. You should only pay what you owe and your fair share. Avoid the guesswork when deciphering drivers' trip sheets to determine mileage and fuel fill-up details with all the necessary fields. Take advantage of the on and off-road savings that used to be cumbersome to keep on paper with accuracy and generate the supporting records required. Next, you want to ensure that they generate the supporting records, reports, and summaries. This eliminates the need to rely on complex internal processes to calculate and determine your quarterly IFTA tax obligation, and removes the need to reconcile and tally paper trip records and fuel receipts from your drivers each filing period. You want to ensure that they support a simplified filing process. Not only should a filing process be provided, but it should be simplified. With all of the data available electronically, your telematics provider should be able to streamline the filing process into one easy step. You want to ensure that it satisfies multiple compliance needs such as tax, ELD, and safety. Provide full visibility and control of your business, including things like fleet activity, tracking, and optimization, as well as other operational data. And last, dramatically reduces administration time and paperwork for completing and filing your quarterly tax returns. This eliminates the need to chase down driver records for paper trip sheets and fuel receipts on a regular basis. It allows you to get back to regular business instead of crunching numbers to beat the filing deadline each quarter. Now that we have covered off what to look for when choosing a telematics provider, let's walk through an example of how the IFTA process can be streamlined in its entirety with an electronic solution. First, an in-vehicle hardware measures distance traveled with a high degree of accuracy and captures location, route, and operational data, which can be seen in the first image. The in-vehicle device records, stores, and continuously transmits encrypted data to a web-based application where users access information and services online. Then, using the information recorded, an electronic tax management solution can display and report distance and location traveled by vehicles and by jurisdiction, calculate your taxes owed, and generate the supporting records. Next, you can manage your IFTA needs and meet record-keeping requirements for electronic systems according to the recently updated IFTA Procedures Manual through the web-based application. Finally, with the click of a button, you can generate a file that can be used as your quarterly IFTA return by uploading it to your base jurisdiction's online web system. Let's look at this process in a bit more detail, starting with record keeping. Here you can see on screen that the IFTA fuel trip records provide you with an electronic version of the traditional paper-based trip sheets. IFTA fuel trip records use the distance mileage information captured from the in-vehicle device to populate all of the required elements for distance record-keeping purposes. Everything you want to see is visible on screen, but with the click of a button, you can export a CSV conveniently available from within the fuel trip records with all of the required data elements, such as the GPS coordinates. As you can see, any fuel fills are also reconciled automatically for you. Next, let's see how easy it is to record fuel receipts for fuel records. Electronic management of your fuel makes it extremely easy to enter and record all of the required fuel fields needed for record-keeping compliance. Fuel transactions can be entered directly on the in-vehicle hardware or by uploading fuel data in bulk or by using one of the fuel card providers your telematics provider integrates with. Organizations who have their drivers enter the fuel fill through the in-vehicle device can take advantage of having the location information of the fuel fill automatically recorded so that it can be automatically reconciled with the trip information. The fuel details can be managed and accessed in the web-based application, which can be seen in the background. In the forefront, you can see all of the details that can be captured for each fuel transaction, increasing your compliance for fuel records. Now, let's take a look at an example of one of the internal controls that is in place. This one relates to fuel. On the fuel exception report, it identifies location, consumption, and fuel type exceptions across your fleet to improve the integrity of and provide internal controls for your fuel records. In this electronic solution, consumption is interpreted as where the MPG is greater or less than 20% across the last 10 fuel fills. Location exceptions are any fuel fill location that does not match the location of the vehicle. And finally, fuel type exceptions occur when there's a different fuel type from the last two transactions recorded. Now that we've covered off distance and fuel records, let's take a look at the Streamline reconciliation and reports process. The IFTA Fleet Summary provides a bird's eye view of your fleet's quarterly mileage and fuel information, thus providing all the needed summaries by jurisdiction and vehicle for record keeping and audit purposes. As you can see, the MPG is calculated per vehicle based on the fuel and mileage information provided. Next, you can easily select the time frame that you wish to see, such as monthly, quarterly, or annually. You can also choose which IFTA license you'd like to see in the event that you have more than one. With a few simple clicks of a button, you can simply change the view, so you can either see by jurisdiction, by vehicle, and with or without the details. Additionally, due to the mileage information captured from the in-vehicle device, the on and off-road trip details are recorded. Electronic reporting capabilities make it possible to identify IFTA exempt miles according to the individual jurisdictional requirements. Any IFTA exempt trip miles can be automatically accounted for when it comes to calculating and preparing your quarterly return data. Clicking on a journey allows you to recreate the individual trip on the map to the right. Here you can see where the vehicle's travel took them completely off the public road. Due to the complexity and detailed record-keeping requirements, most customers are not able to benefit from exempt mile savings prior to enhancing their business with an electronic solution. Organizations that tend to see the larger savings for exempt miles occur when the organization's business requires them to travel in exempt areas, such as logging and construction sites. While you may be thinking, oh, I don't encounter any exempt miles, my trucks don't drive on logging and construction sites. Well, what about your yard moves? How do you account for those today? One of our customers was not taking advantage of their yard moves prior to going electronic. They learned that with each fuel fill in their yard, 0.5 miles was accumulating for each instance of off-road journeys. How many exempt miles would this be for you at the end of the month, or quarter, or even year? They add up and should not be missed. While some jurisdictions do not allow you to claim exempt miles on the IFTA return directly, such as California, you may still be able to claim a separate refund by using an off-highway fuel usage report. The number of off-highway gallons consumed is automatically calculated and displayed per vehicle, jurisdiction, and road type category, again, using the mileage and fuel information already available. You can see various filters that make it a cinch to fill out and file multiple refund claims in no time at all. We will provide more information regarding EROAD's off-highway fuel usage report following the conclusion of the webinar. Now that we have covered record keeping and reconciliation, including reports and summaries, let's take a look at the final stage in the process, filing. Here you can see the IFTA return provides a similar look and feel to the quarterly IFTA return you're used to filing traditionally, with a high-level summary of the mileage and fuel information to calculate the MPG, and a detailed section where the mileage and fuel information is broken down by jurisdiction and fuel type. All of this information is combined to arrive at the prize, right? Your net taxable gallons for the quarter. Filling out and filing your returns has never been easier. However, now with an Easy File feature, you can generate a file that can be used as your IFTA return with the click of a button. Simply upload the file to your base jurisdiction's web online system to file your quarterly IFTA return. With the Easy File feature, you can reduce time and effort spent preparing and filing your quarterly returns, automatically generate a file in the format accepted by your jurisdiction's online web system, no longer need to spend time transferring information onto a paper return or send your data to a third-party service provider, and effortlessly with the click of a button, generate a file that you can upload where you already manage your IFTA account information, such as your decal purchases and vehicle registrations. You can also complete the fuel tax process from data collection to tax return on a single platform with no outside tools or software needed to benefit from a true end-to-end solution. For California-based carriers, More information can be found on California's Board of Equalization's website regarding their online filing system available. How EROAD can help you. Superior accuracy. With an EROAD solution, you get a continuous ping rate, which is sampled by the in-vehicle hardware every once per second. This allows us to capture highly accurate mileage records that comprise our intuitive reports. We have a plus or minus 0.5% accuracy, and we have independently approved mileage records from Oregon Secretary of State. Without superior accuracy, you could be missing out on potential savings, such as those for exempt miles, or even worse, your records could be considered inadequate or non-compliant in the event of an audit. If the ping rate is once every 10 to 15 minutes, are you confident you know where your truck went during that time? We meet IFTA record keeping requirements, including the record retention requirement of at least 4 years. We're able to determine on and off-road miles with extreme precision. This includes an automatic exempt mile determination for IFTA according to the individual jurisdictional requirements, providing increased savings. We supply a quarterly IFTA return and IFTA Easy File feature. With EROAD, you can expect to fill out and file your return in 1/10 of the time each period when moving from paper to electronic records. With IFTA license management, it provides you with the ability to set up and manage multiple IFTA licenses, assign vehicles to them, and maintain specific fleets or groups of your vehicles. We have exceptional internal controls in place, such as those that provide adequate records to support auditable distance. You can manage the entire IFTA process from start to finish. There's no additional software needed to manage the entire IFTA process, from record keeping to filing. We offer a single platform for multiple compliance needs and an industry-leading 99.98% service uptime. The service uptime determines the amount of time available for you to access the system and your data. With EROAD, you can expect less than 6 minutes of downtime each month. Even a system with an uptime of 95%, a small difference, still has an impact on providing full visibility into and control of your business. This is the difference between minutes and days per month where you cannot access your data. And finally, we are engaged regularly with the regulatory and trucking community. While we remain neutral as far as regulations are concerned, it's more for us to stay in the know and up to date on any changes that may affect the industry we serve. Now that you've seen an example of how the process can be streamlined from start to finish, let's finish off with a few questions to ask yourself that may help make your telematics decision a bit easier. Are you meeting the record-keeping requirements today? Are you able to distinguish between taxable and exempt miles per jurisdiction and according to the individual rules? Are you spending too much time filling out your tax returns each reporting period? Would you rather be doing something else besides crunch numbers? And finally, are you confident in the tax returns you're filing? Lastly, I've included some external resources that are available to you. Some of these include IFTA websites, as well as specific websites for California, as well as EROAD's Oregon Secretary of State audit report. Now, I'd like to open up the webinar to any questions and comments you might have. Okay, I have one. This says, where can I find the 2017 changes? They're available on the IFTA Clearinghouse website. If you go to their website and click on manuals, you'll see that there's an IFTA procedures manual as well as a few other pieces of documentation available for you. Here's another question. How do you determine taxable and exempt mileage? Well, few different ways. One, through the IFTA Clearinghouse website. They have the detail between for each jurisdiction on whether or not they have exemptions. With a continuous ping rate, we're able to determine exactly where the vehicle is. We also spend quite diligent in verifying with each jurisdiction their exempt requirements. And then fourth, we have an added map layer to determine exactly which type of road you're on at the time. Question, is Oregon Secretary of State audit available, and do all electronic tax solutions have this? No, I believe that EROAD is the only provider that's been government approved, and that Oregon Secretary of State audit is available only to EROAD. And a copy of that audit report can be found on EROAD's website, and that was seen on the previous slide. Anything else? Okay, well, thank you so much. If I didn't get to your question this morning, or you'd like to learn more, please feel free to give me a call. My contact information is provided here. I'm on the East Coast, but that's my cell phone, and you can get a hold of me at any time, as well as my email address. So thank you for your time today.
Brittany, there are a few, there's about 2 questions that did come in. I'll go ahead and read them out for you. One of them is, EROAD has an important feature to upload a CSV form from a fuel download. Does this override existing data, or do you have to look out for double entry?
You only have to click the button once. It downloads the file to your machine. And then when you log into California, I'm assuming web system, there's an option for you to upload your file, and that will contain the entire contents. I'm assuming if you've manually entered anything into California's system, there's a chance that it could overwrite it. I don't have any experience with California's online system for uploading it, but that would be something to check with them. However, from EROAD's standpoint, you can just download that CSV and simply upload it. It's a one-step process.
Great, thank you. There's a few more coming in, so I'll go ahead and read them off for you. How do you determine off-road miles, and are you able to set geofencing?
Okay. Yes, geofencing is allowed. You can create a geofence that allows you to determine whether that geofence is considered off-highway. And you can also designate it with a road type category, such as a private road, construction site, forestry road, and that will take into account for any off-highway or exempt miles. As far as determining the off-highway miles, believe we've covered that, but that was the IFTA clearinghouse, highly accurate mileage records, so we know exactly where you are. We also verify it with the jurisdictions, and we have an added map layer. When jurisdictions change it, we do update our system regularly for any changes that come in, so we're always up to date.
Thank you, Brittany. Here's another one. How does this link with the telematics being used, and is it required for drivers to use a tablet or something to input the fuel fillings, or can this be done by the admin people in office?
That's a great question. So for fuel, you can enter directly through the in-vehicle device that's installed onto the vehicle. So there's no need for a tablet. If you decide to not have your drivers enter the fuel directly on the box, you can, in the back office, simply enter them one at a time. You can do a bulk upload. You can import. You can integrate with one of our fuel providers. So there are a few different options available to you for easily get your fuel into the system.
Thank you. I'll move on to the next. Only some of our trucks are on IFTA. We have bulk fueling. What is the requirement for bulk fueling?
Yeah, so for bulk fuel storage, you're required to keep monthly and quarterly and yearly inventories of your bulk storage tanks that are currently on site. So any of your purchases and withdrawals that come out of that tank, whether they're IFTA vehicles or not, is still a requirement. And then separately for bulk fuel withdrawals that come out of your tank and into your vehicle that is IFTA, those are handled the same way of fuel purchases. So there's no difference there.
Okay, and it looks like there's just one more question. When is this new EROAD system become mandatory?
When does it become? Are you referring to the ELD mandate? If so, the decision to move to an electronic telematics provider for ELD is at the end of this year.
Great, thank you. And I believe that's it for the questions. Thank you, Brittany, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar, How to Better Navigate the IFTA Process. The recording and PowerPoint presentation will be emailed to you after the webinar, but you can also access it by going to our website, caltruck.org, and searching EROAD, which will direct you to the EROAD page. If you have any other questions, please feel free to contact Brittany, and you can see her information on the screen. And on behalf of CTA, EROAD, and our presenters, thank you for joining us today, and have a wonderful rest of your day.